Simone, I am excited to be here with you today because I told you something recently and you were like, that cannot be true.
Yeah, genuinely.
Trump just randomly going off about something. Both parties can't be involved. This can't really be happening. And I was like, no, from what I've heard, it is happening and I have gotten more information. So we are going to talk about this. All
right? Let's do it.
During a speech at the Economic Club of New York, September 5th, 2024, Trump announced his plans to establish a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial performance audit of the entire federal government, making recommendations for drastic reforms to improve efficiency, eliminating fraud and improper payments within 6 months, which Trump claims would save trillions of dollars, and he's probably right.
Yeah.
Oh, and all of this would be run by Elon Musk. And I was like, this must be like a meme. This can't be.
Yeah.
So we're going to get more into this.
Would you like to know more?
Trump has said this on multiple occasions at this point. Elon Musk has confirmed this.
At the suggestion of Elon Musk, I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it. Can't go on the way we are now. And Elon has agreed to head that task force.
Not only has he confirmed this, but he told Trump to set this up with him running it.
That is, I want this to happen. That sounds awesome.
100,000%, 1,000%.
Wow.
Like, this could genuinely save our country, or at least save our collapse for 10 to 20 years. And in the same way that Margaret Thatcher did for the UK. Like, the UK is only now collapsing because Margaret Thatcher reset the clock about 20 years on the collapse of the United Kingdom. Genuinely one of the most important political figures in history, people who don't know how much she did for the United Kingdom. And of course, she's hated by the left for it because she shut down all of these like coal mines and stuff like that were just running on subsidies. And everyone was like, oh, but people lost their jobs. And it's like, yeah, but then the unemployment rate stabilized and people had real jobs that weren't reliant on a fake state infrastructure going into dirty power source like coal, right? I love it that lefties will complain about coal mines shutting down in the UK. I'm like, you guys are nutter butters. But anyway, if Elon and Trump can delay this for just 20 years in the US, given that only conservatives are having kids anymore, okay, things are shifting. We just need to outlast these crazy commies until they all die of old age. And then we can set a new social system in place, okay? But if we can just keep America functioning, because really it may not function for much longer. There was a great video on this called The $2 Million Toilet is what the title card was. I forgot the name of the video. It was like, was Economic Inefficiency Destroy America. It's from Visualpolitik. They did a great job explaining like just how bad things are in the US. The thing that we always note is the Golden Gate Bridge. It cost about a third what it cost to originally build it just to put the suicide netting on it. It took like 6 times as long or something in cash adjusted dollars. You know, so inefficiencies and government waste is at a level now in the US, which is higher than the EU. And that is wild. Now, the EU still gives money to more stupid government programs like Dustborn, that game we talked about that was just like racist DEI nonsense, was funded by EU taxpayers.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna keep going here. Unless you had any thoughts before I go further.
No, keep going.
The Government Efficiency Commission would conduct a financial and performance audit of the federal government and would track down fraud and improper payments made from government programs. By the way, if you're wondering like, oh, come on, this doesn't happen all the time. A place where this happened a ton was under Tim Walz's district. Kamala Harris.
No, really?
Yeah.
What? So what kind of fraudulent?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head. I just remember it was millions and millions and millions of dollars that were very easy to catch, but he may have been using it to pay off for political purposes, individuals. For example, the nonprofit Feeding Our Future diverted $250 million of federal funds meant to feed low-income children during the COVID-19 pandemic and basically just stole the money, apparently with almost no oversight, as judged by the Minnesota Office of Legislative Auditors. It would then provide recommendations for quote unquote drastic reforms aimed at promoting efficiency, explained was the goal of eliminating fraud and improper payments within 6 months of the commission being formed. Quote, I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government, end quote, Trump said in his speech. Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX and owner of social media platform X, acknowledged his agreement to serve as the government efficiency commission and wrote on X, quote, I look forward to serving America if the opportunity arises. No pay, no title, no recognition is needed, end quote. Politicians have pushed for government efficiency commissions in the past. Republican President Ronald Reagan established a similar body while he was in office from 1981 to 1989 called the Grace Commission. Trump's proposal sparked criticism for Everett Kelly, president of the American Federation of Government Employees, a union that represents 750,000 federal workers. Oh, I bet it did. I bet they don't want people going through those books and finding where people aren't needed anymore. So for more context here, the idea for this commission originated in a conversation between Trump and Elon Musk in August 2024. Musk endorsed Trump for president in July 2024. The proposal is part of Trump's broader economic plan for a potential second term, which includes tax cuts and deregulation. So this is huge. And it's been very interesting for me to watch. I watched an MSNBC coverage of this, and they were just freaking out. They were like, Twitter has gotten so bad since Musk took it over. It's become a disinformation platform.
Foreign interference in American elections, something we've all been on the lookout for since 2016. But there's also like a really disturbing information environment in America right now, domestically in this campaign year, that has nothing to do with illegal foreign interference. Elon Musk runs one of the most influential internet platforms, or at least it used to be, formerly known as Twitter. And he has essentially turned that platform into a pro-Trump, pro-authoritarian disinformation machine, where he just posts vile bigotry and disinformation that millions of people see and share. It also seems like in two ways, the entire platform seems more and more engineered towards that kind of sort of like trollish right-wing politics.
Some things that lefties say, they've gotten called by their fact checkers, which, by the way, their fact checkers have been actually pretty fantastic. The fast-checking system that Elon put in place.
Yeah.
And people are like, why do you say it's fantastic and fairly unbiased? People will say this and then regularly gloat that it fact-checks Elon Musk. And it's like, that's my proof, bro. The very fact that you will fucking bemoan how biased the system is when it catches lefties and then gloat that it's constantly catching Elon Musk's in misrepresentations. That to me is when a government department is regularly arresting the emperor, it is not under the emperor's dictatorial control. Okay, buddy? In addition to that, just anyone who's used X recently knows it's a much more fun platform to use since Elon took over than beforehand. And I remember MSNBC was like, they've become so trolly. They like keep making these jokes. And like Elon posted a picture of Kamala Harris in like a communist uniform. It said that she was going to make America communist in her first 30 days. And she didn't say that. And she never wore that uniform. And he is a liar. It's like, it's obviously like an AI generated image. Like, oh my God.
Despite his site's own policy that you may not share synthetic, manipulated, or out of context media that may deceive or confuse people, Musk does that basically all day long. On Monday, he posted this like weird and pretty schlocky AI generated image of what is supposed to be Vice President Kamala Harris, but doesn't really look like her, in a Soviet looking uniform, commenting, Kamala vows to be a communist dictator on day one. Can you believe she wears that outfit? In point of fact, I can't, because she doesn't, and it's AI. That post alone was viewed more than 81 million times, at least according to Twitter's metrics, which, you know, who knows if you can trust them.
They're like, it wasn't even fact checked. It's like, yeah, because people who aren't retarded would see that it's a joke. Okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to say retarded, but that's a retarded thing to say. But anyway, going further with this, they were complaining about, and people who know how bad this has gotten, we did this video on Elon Musk, you know, getting Twitter banned in Brazil because he wouldn't ban a bunch of people that they told him to, right? Another large democracy. And then Kamala Harris saying like, I like that they banned him. That's a good thing because we have to treat all social media platforms the same, the way we treat Facebook. They're like, if you have one set of rules for Facebook and one set for X. And now we know that the government forced Facebook to ban posts that were true because they hurt Democratic campaign officers, specifically the FBI, made them take down the Hunter Biden laptop story and parts of the COVID misresponse stuff. But then, in addition to that, I have learned since I made that post that some of the people who they wanted X to remove in Brazil were sitting legislative officials who were conservative.
Oh, no.
It
Really?
wasn't just mainstream, like, you know, their version of like Tucker Carlson. It was other party members who weren't on their party side. This was a dictatorial coup attempt.
Wow.
By any measure. And of course, the left can't handle that Elon is allowing for free speech. But what is, and something I mentioned in another podcast for people who have like these weird interpretations of Elon Musk because they believe, like, do you understand? Elon Musk is the wealthiest person in the world. Okay. And if you're like, and being liked as the wealthiest person in the world is fucking hard. Okay. If you're like, he could just give his money to poor people, it's like, well, Mark Zuckerberg tried that. Bill Gates tried that. Did they get any love for it? They are much more hated than Elon, right? Elon is just an autistic dad, okay? He's an autistic dad who is in a fight with some of his ex-wives. That is who Elon really is, okay? He is not like, and he's smart. He's smart as hell, okay? He has achieved a great deal in his life. And when you, who has achieved astronomically less than him, degrade him believing these fake stories you're hearing about him and these fake interpretations of him, you look like a buffoon to other competent people who have actually achieved things in their lives. You look like a buffoon. But anyway, Simone, thoughts? I've been on a rant this time.
It's an exciting idea. I'm confused as to why this same interest in greater efficiency, cleaning up legislation, cleaning up fraud, is not also demonstrated in the Democratic Party. You'd think that it's universal.
Because they're beneficiaries of all that.
Right, but it should be a truth universally acknowledged that everyone would want things to run more efficiently and costs to be lower.
The Democratic Party, and I think people misunderstand how critical a voting bloc this is to the Democratic Party. The public sector unions are a massive and important voting bloc to the Democratic Party.
Even though only 4% of Americans are apparently in unions, which is
right,
nothing.
But they can decide elections, okay? Specifically the public sector unions, because they're very good at whipping out their people to vote as blocs. All right. And they are needed for Democratic primaries. If you go against a teachers union or something like that, you're not going to win the election. This is why we can't have education reform in the US, because the teachers union has the Democratic Party completely in their pocket. This is why Democrats will never do any real education reform. And this is why anything that looks at government corruption and inefficiency is going to be seen as an existential threat to public sector unions, because they can know what's up. They know about in New York that there's teachers who have gotten over $2 million while not teaching classes just because it's so hard to fire a teacher in New York. By the way, the teacher who this happened to, I think they molested multiple young girls and they just weren't fired because it was easier. And the teachers union is protecting them, still preventing them. That is what teachers union stands for, is the molestation of children. That is what they defend. And that is what, and there was a famous quote from the head of the New York, I think it was the Manhattan Teachers Union, that we will start advocating for the best interests of students the moment students start paying teacher union dues. They do not care about students. When Mark Zuckerberg tried to do the generic thing to help people, he went out there and he gave, I think it was $10 million? No, $100 million to the New York
It was
school.
some stupid amount. It's stupid in terms of
school.
its generosity, like just insanely high.
46 million of it went to a bribe to the teachers union so that the rest of it could be used to pay teachers who worked more money, i.e.
Yeah, the premise of his general philanthropic effort was, well, what if teachers who had better student outcomes received basically incentive pay and reward for producing better student outcomes? And that was such an offensive concept to teachers unions that he basically had to pay bribes. because
Not
God
bribe,
forbid.
half of it as a bribe. And people will be like, well, it wasn't technically a bribe. It went to their whatever back fund, and the birder fund, and the herder fund. It went to the unions, okay? It's a bribe. Call it whatever you want. It was money that wasn't paid in the way that was meant to improve student outcomes. It had to be paid this way so that they could even attempt to improve student outcomes. That is how little teachers' unions care about student outcomes. They do. Actually, there was a great study done on this that Simone likes to share during COVID that was looking at how strict COVID restriction policies were in school districts.
Basically it looked at where there were the longest school shutdowns during the pandemic in the United States. And then it looked to see what it correlated with more. Did it correlate with the severity of the disease burden in an area, or did it correlate more with the strength of a teachers union? And lo and behold, the correlation was with the strength of teachers unions. That was quite a high correlation. And there was basically zero correlation with the actual threat of COVID-19 in that area at that time.
But I want to elevate what this means for everyone. Remember how like they fired that woman who is going to be the next head of Levi's because she said,
I think she was actually already the CEO of Levi Strauss Company, a very famous jeans company in the United States. And she became very vociferous about school closure policies. As a mother of Black children.
No, hold on. Simone, you're forgetting part of the story. Specifically, she was concerned about the closure of minority-dominated schools.
Her point was that basically privileged and wealthy parents are not in a position to stop people from complaining about school closures because they are quietly proceeding to get private tutors for their students and getting their kids into private schools that are still open, whereas those who have no money for alternatives are losing their kids' education.
Yeah. And what's important here, she's removed from her position, never reinstated after COVID when it turned out she was right about this. But what's important to note is we now know these school closures did nothing. The school closures were motivated by the teachers' unions. Teachers who had these strong unions and saw COVID as an opportunity to basically just stop working for a couple of years at the expense of an entire generation of American students. Because now we know these weren't backed by the science. Now we know these didn't work. We can look at the data. Now we know that these were predominantly done by the teachers' unions because we can look, the length of them was determined by the strength of the teachers' union. That was by far the highest correlator to how long these lasted. These were just an opportunity for power-hungry teachers' unions to have teachers stop working when they felt like it. It is horrifying what's being done to the students. And I should note, many of the teachers didn't want to stop. They were like, what are you doing? Right? Like the unions are not run by the teachers who care about the students. They are run by the teachers who wanted to play the power politics of teacher union stuff. Let me word this a different way, okay? Teachers unions are like if your profession wasn't run by the people who are good at your profession, but was run by the type of people who run abusive HOAs. Okay, those are homeowners associations for people outside of the US, which are famous for just being really annoying and bureaucratic and woke and terrible.
Yeah, well, and basically obligating you to spend huge amounts of money every month on things you don't want to spend money on, but you have no choice because you own a home in this community. So that's a scary prospect for people.
Well, and our teacher union's not doing the same thing. You know, they force teachers to give them a part of their pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that they can spend it on these terrible for students stuff that these bureaucrats who don't care about students, and the bureaucrats who don't care about students, they loved that free time at home. In fact, we saw this was an issue because we know people who are high up in like administration of education departments, where when teachers started going back to school, many of them were like, well, okay, here's my ultimatum. Either I quit or I stay working from home, because what they had done was taken other jobs and they realized that their other jobs were just better than going back to school. So it was easy for them to make that ultimatum. They use this to take on multiple jobs. We should also do an episode on the myth of low teacher pay. There's a great article on this, but like when you actually account for things and you account for time off and you account for the amount that they get in terms of, what is it?
Summer vacation.
No. The amount they get in like pension.
Oh, benefits and pensions. Oh, like health insurance. Yes.
If you control for qualification and education level, teachers earn something like 30% more than people in the private sector. Like it's actually a fantastically paid position. It's just that people overestimate how much people are earning in the private sector. But, we've talked about this in other podcasts. People broadly just overestimate how much most Americans make. But Simone, your thoughts on this? Do you think this can save America? A government efficiency department run by Elon, and are we going to be applying to that?
I would apply to that in a hot second, and I don't think it could save America, because I think that the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, the bureaucratic machine is a lot harder to dismantle and would take much more than 4 years. But I think that it could do a lot of good and create a precedent where if it does a lot of good, people recognize that it does good. That could create momentum that builds over time, which would be absolutely dreamy. I mean, just imagine. I think the other big problem, and it's not even, you don't have to hate government to recognize the fact that many of the departments that we have in government in the United States and elsewhere in the world as well, they were created before the internet. They were created during very different times with very different technology and very different resources. So their staffing composition, the way that things are structured, doesn't necessarily correlate with modern technology, management methods, all sorts of things like that. And they could almost certainly be run far more efficiently. So I think you don't have to hate government to recognize that talent is being misallocated now and resources are being misallocated.
I sometimes feel like when I hear you talking, I'm like, wow, she's so like cold and rational and pragmatic and
am I being Pollyanna-ish here? What?
No, you're not being Pollyanna-ish. I think you represent, I guess I'm like the emotional side of the voice. Just like, I can't believe they're doing. We have to wait.
Your sense and I'm sensibility. Oh no, your sensibility and I'm sense.
And you're coming in and you're like, well, a lot of these departments were created during a different era, and it is very important that we go through and we update them for a modern context. Using,
well, that's our autistic schizoid dynamic here, right?
We do very well together. I'm quite happy to be married to you. For people who are wondering what she's talking about there, look up the video, the schizoid to autist spectrum. It actually did pretty well as a video, and one person on it was like, in the comments, they were like, this must be taken down immediately. This could cause harm to these communities.
Are we both an insult too?
No, because we're presenting novel theories around the way these things work. And somebody who is of this mindset of the urban monoculture's explanation for everything is sacrosanct, and any alternate explanation, even if it's scientifically backed, is incredibly dangerous, because, we're challenging dogma. From their perspective, he's basically yelling, heretic, burn him, heretic.
Even though we weren't talking, I mean, like, I feel like schizophrenia and autism aren't necessarily hot button issues in the modern progressive movement.
Here, sorry. Do you remember where we were in the conversation?
We were talking schizoid. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention, this is a little unrelated, but if we're talking about people with brain wiggles, and you and I have brains full of wiggles, the term neurodivergent was not meant for everyone who had brain wiggles. It was meant for people with Asperger's specifically. The woman who termed the phrase. Yes. Then she's like later been a little miffed that people just decided to use this word and apply it to like everything. I think it was sort of OCD-ified. How a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so OCD. And they're not, they're just like, they're just basic bitches. And they're just like, oh, so OCD. And they're not. And I think that has happened as well with neurodivergent. I had no idea. I thought that neurodivergent just meant like, I see myself as, I never really fit in with one group. I just floated from group to group,
Okay, but Simone, we need to talk about the existential threat to our democracy.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Side note.
I was just talking with the person who's helping us with all these mailer ballots, and they were like, yeah, they're like, you guys are young, but like we had freedom our entire lives. And like, this does not feel like the United States used to feel. And I felt that way when I was watching this recent MSNBC bit and recent news bits where I'm just like, they're just like lying to us now and blatantly. And
no,
maybe
I love like, and it's been amazing working with our campaign volunteers because they're incredibly helpful, and you're not going to volunteer for a campaign or for the conservative cause in America if you don't have hope, because otherwise why would you bother, right? They do have some hope, and yet
election pod. Say they talk about election pod.
They talk about election wiggles, and they talk about the underpinnings of our democratic institutions not working anymore, and yet they're still trying. But it's scary to hear that, because I want to do a separate episode on this, but I'm going through this show called The Good Fight that first started running right around when Trump was elected, and it was sort of a follow-up of this other US-based TV show series, like a law procedural called The Good Wife. But it's basically a show about Trump derangement syndrome. And what's crazy is that, and I want to do a podcast about this show shows the perspective of someone with Trump derangement syndrome. And it's a show that devolves to the point where the characters literally justify, and the show seems to literally justify committing.
Well, there's an episode, I could not find clips from it. I was so mad. I tried to find it uploaded anywhere, Daily Motion, YouTube, anywhere, because I wanted to drag these clips from it. But there's this great clip that you were talking about where they're like, yeah, we need to start lying and cheating and, using election pods.
Wiggling votes, making the votes, wave in the wind, do a little, whatever. Yeah, I guess, we'll say, get on a post hoc basis, changing voters' minds very convincingly. But yeah, like that there's a show that's basically like, well, here's the logical argument for why we're totally justified in doing this, and we should be doing this. And it's insane that these ideas are apparently mainstream. So yeah, it saddens me that we can hear such hopeful stories of let's make an initiative of the government to clean things up. Let's make things better. And that's actually even seen as an attack point in political ads. I was speaking with a lobbyist this afternoon to get his insights on what's going on with the election in the state of Pennsylvania, a key swing state in the United States. And he was talking about an election ad he heard while driving cross country for Kamala Harris in favor of her, that talked about how one of Trump's desired actions is to completely evaporate the Department of Education. And that alone for him was a selling point. He's like, sign me up. Like, this is an attack ad. So
yeah, I'm well, and that's where you get people when
when the
does an ad,
ads,
I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm pro Trump because I saw that ad. I'm like, oh, he could lie about that, right? Whatever. But if Kamala does an ad that's like, Trump says he wants to get rid of the federal education department,
and people listening to that and they're like, yeah,
No, I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. I don't know what to make of it.
That was actually something when Trump announced the government efficiency campaign. He specifically does a long speech afterwards about the core focus of it is to focus on education, both the education department and the government-funded university system.
Wow. Yeah. Although I have my doubts. Jordan Peterson, for example, recently released some online university that's not accredited, but he's trying to provide the equivalent of an affordable college education to people. There are all sorts of online certification programs. There's course careers. I just don't see any of it at present being picked up. I hear people like the investors and employers of the All In podcast, these are very influential people with a very influential podcast saying, we should start, we need to ignore prestigious universities and hire people just based on merit. And many of them actually do and have done for many years. They just don't hire people from prestigious universities because they found that they're too entitled and they don't actually do any work. But, just the fact that they're saying that we need to do that really shows that people are still leaning on these institutions for the vetting they do, if nothing else. I feel like maybe one of the most efficient things you could ever do is get rid of everything but universities' admissions boards. And so basically but
the admissions boards are the heart of the evil.
But if you get into Harvard, then it means
But
that
we just need an alternate system that, because the admissions boards are the root of the evil.
Yeah.
They are the DEIest of DEI.
But employers want someone else to do their work for them. Employers want somebody else to do the vetting for them. So how else can you do someone's vetting for them? In other words.
Well, there's actually been a great number of leaps in that area among elite circles that we hang out in. The core thing that people look for is, did other people give this person money now?
Yeah, but
that's what they look for.
Well, she hasn't proved in days. So
an example here is typically like way more prestigious than a Harvard degree these days are the Teal Fellowship. Teal Fellowships are where they pay you to not go to college to work on whatever you want to work on. Because
that's true. Yeah, if a kid has a Teal Fellowship or an Emergent Ventures grant, for example.
An Emergent Ventures grant, they're considered really prestigious. That EA
Atlas
scholarship, I think, might have dried up. Yeah, the Atlas Fellowship. So we're already moving to this system where the people who are so talented that people just give them money, a Y Combinator investment, 500 startups investment.
Yeah.
They're considered much bigger deals than Harvard these days.
By those who know. But I guess that's who matters.
Money.
Yeah.
That's who knows. People with money, people with access to opportunities.
Yeah.
We've already moved to this system. Oh, she looks so sleepy.
She's in a state.
She's just like, I don't know. I kind of want to engage.
I don't know what she's doing. She looks like I feel. Our children just act always like I feel, you know. Like,
that's how you feel
when they're just screaming and shitting on the floor. I'm like, yeah, man.
Why can't I be screaming and shitting on the floor?
Off your pants and your panties, shit on the floor. Time to get swifty in here.
I'm doing it on the inside, you know. They just
I gotta do the get swifty thing here.
Our children, though, I think children really, a person's children is them drunk on steroids. You're seeing the real version of them plus their partner. You know, there's no hiding it at that point. Even when you're drunk, you can still kind of.
I think that people who hate their children hate themselves. You know, you see all these things like, I don't like
and
my
or their
kids,
spouses,
or they don't like their spouses, because I love myself.
And you love me.
I like you. I like you, Simone. I love myself. And I love our kids. They are fantastic. I have love for you, but you know, you're no Malcolm.
I'm no Malcolm. It's true.
I'm joking.
I love you more than I love
amazing,
me.
So
you can't look in a mirror without seducing yourself, and I can't look in a mirror without cringing and thinking,
okay,
oh God.
So explain what you mean by that, because this is actually a fault of mine.
Yeah. Malcolm will walk by reflective surfaces and mirrors, windows, and sort of stop and kind of admire himself. And our kids do exactly the same thing. In fact, Indy's favorite toy, this baby here, is literally the mirror that you bought for Octavian 4 years ago, our oldest son. Yeah. And she'll sit in the mirror and she'll just be like, and she'll like laugh. And I'll give you a clip. I have proof. I have video proof of a video I actually just took this morning. You'll see she's in the same outfit, just going in the mirror. She freaking loves it. So this is a genetic trait, but yeah, you absolutely.
What arrogance, self-love? I am here for it.
You know what? Well, I think it's because you're all extraordinary people and you recognize that. And I think Elon Musk is one of those people. I think he also enjoys being himself, though he has more of a tortured soul than you are for sure. Like he does not necessarily being him. But I think he knows that he's a big deal.
I would rather be me than Elon Musk.
Oh yeah, when he said that, like he said this in multiple interviews, like, you do not want to be me. I am not a happy person. I'm not a serene or calm person. And you actually know how to like enjoy yourself, which is great.
Oh, I
and like
love my life. This life is awesome.
Although at least
I genuinely,
like you do,
when people are like, we might be in a simulation, I genuinely, and like for me, the big evidence for me that I'm in a simulation is I do not believe that life can be this good. This is the before scene. Like my life these days is the before scene in a Punisher movie. I hate that
so much. I have that feeling all the time. I'm like, oh shit, when is it going to drop? Oh no.
Well, that's why I've recently made the rule. We can't all be in a plane at the same time. We can't all like, we gotta come up with rules to protect this, because this is getting insane.
The before scene vibe is too strong. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean, so do you think that Trump is more likely to win with Elon Musk potentially leading up this efficiency department or not?
Bro,
or is just preaching to the choir?
Look, I think that there's a brain.
Well, it went over centrists. Well, it went over swing voters. Really?
What?
Will it win over centrists and swing voters is the question.
I know centrist and swing voters who, between the last election cycle and this election cycle, have moved from Democrat to Republican. I don't know a single one that has moved from Republican to Democrat.
And
I
also-
feel that if we lose this election cycle, it is due to election wiggles. Because I just practically, I was actually talking with someone about this, and we tried to find anyone, a single human being who had publicly moved from Republican to Democrat between these two election cycles. And
Yeah, but they said it was Dick
only
Cheney.
one they could find was Dick Cheney, and that's because his daughter got screwed over when she went all Judas.
Well, so is the, also I'm curious. Do you think this is a similar sentiment in the EU? I feel like Europeans are a whole lot more pro democracy. Is efficiency and cutting fat a selling point only in the US, or would something like this also be popular in the EU, in the UK?
I haven't noticed it as much as a thing. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher did win in the UK. She's one of my favorite
But she was
politicians in history.
insanely unpopular as well for doing things like that. They kind of saw her as like, you know, mean mommy doing what needs to be done, but they didn't like what mommy was doing. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, mean mommy needed to do what mean mommy needed to do.
It's true.
One of my favorite things for people who don't know history of Margaret Thatcher and stuff like that, just the best politician ever, is she was known for being much better educated on any subject than the people who she was. You're back from school? Okay, come on. Competing against. I'm going to tell you a story about Margaret Thatcher. They call her the Iron Lady. Can you believe that? The Iron Lady? Anyway. So she would do this thing called handbagging people, which people would see as like a woman beating a person with her purse. And it was when like local politicians would like challenge her, and then she'd start like asking them nitty questions about like their local economy. Like, are you familiar with X from your local economy? Like, have you done X about Y? Like, Y about C? You know, and just like a bunch of like popular local stuff that they should know about, but she knows about because she memorized it for every single district.
Ouch.
Hey,
that's such a Lisa Simpson like or woman thing to do, to just be like,
oh no,
wow.
Margaret Thatcher is
According
like
to my
real Republican
research.
Lisa Simpson.
Yeah.
You're gonna what me? Come on, sit here. You gotta what? Oh, you're gonna do what to me, Octavian? Are you? What is that? Is that a gun that goes from your eye?
Yeah.
Who are you? Are you shooting our fans?
Yeah.
Oh no!
Hey, Octavian, can you please tell our fans to like and subscribe?
Look at the sky.
Wait, but Octavian, I have a question for you. Do you think the U.S. government is inefficient?
Yes.
Do you think the U.S. government is silly?
Yeah.
Less.
Shoot them with your eye laser?
It's not eye waster. It's the gun.
Oh, it's a gun!
Come on, Malcolm. It's a
What will
gun.
it do to somebody if it hits them?
And then it'll crack. Build it at no. I'm not talking about I built it at school.
Where'd you build it?
I made it a Santa house out of Legos.
Oh.
Do you often make
So
guns?
it won't kill.
Oh, so it won't kill.
Oh.
Because what happens with real guns? Are you allowed to touch real guns, Octavian?
No.
What happens if you accidentally touch a real gun?
Then I will get bopped.
Yeah, and that's why bops are important. Right, Octavian?
Yes.
And I have a question. If somebody wastes money on silly things, what should happen to them, Octavian?
I don't know.
Well, suppose somebody took your money. Every year they took your money. What would you do to them?
I really don't know.
Sorry, he's just into shooting people with his eye gun.
Well, you know, that's the first thing they teach you at kindergarten is how to be a school shooter. That's why it's
a
such
school shooter.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a little white boy, right? They need more white boy school shooters for the narrative to work.
Yeah.
And less trans school shooters, because apparently they're all trans now. That's what I've seen.
Oh, not in the media.
Well, not in the media, but by the actual statistics. In 2017, there was the Randy Stair mass shooting in Tenahawken, PA. Next, you had a shooting at a Maryland distribution center in 2018. Then you had a school shooting in Denver in 2019. So no, right now, 2017, 2018, 2019. Then the Colorado Springs LGBT nightclub shooting shooter identified as non-binary. That was in 2022. Then in 2023, the Nashville school shooting was also transgender. Now, people can be like, oh, that's not that many. That's only 5 mass shooters, almost 1 a year. That's not that many mass shooters. And then I would point out that since 1982 in the United States, there have only been 4 cis female mass shootings. So just since 2017, there has been more trans mass shootings than there have been female mass shootings since 1982. It's not anti-trans to point out that this is just a fact at this point. And we, as a society, should probably be doing something about the epidemic of trans mass shooters. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I don't need you anymore. Get away from me, you gross, disgusting. They say I don't love my kid, and they're right about that.
I love you, Malcolm. Would you mind getting the kids? What do you want for dinner? I have meat.
I reheat the meat I have in the fridge from my lunch yesterday. You don't like that I go out to lunch.
Well, no, it's just that I got like two nights worth of meat thawed because you kept asking me to thaw
Yeah, and I'll eat it. It'll be fine.
Well, we're gonna be hosting dinners in DC soon.
Oh, so. I forgot about that. Oh,
It's okay. I'll figure something out. Maybe I can get the kids to
just
eat
refreeze
something.
it.
No, but I'll see if I can get the kids
back. It'll be fine. Just cook it through.
All right. Well, anyway, I'll reheat your stuff with rice. Do you want fried rice or plain rice?
Fried rice if you can. I love it when you do that.
Yeah. Only spring onions, no other vegetables?
If you have other vegetables, I'm happy to go vegetable heavy.
Peas? Frozen peas? Yeah.
Oh, no. Then just the spring onions.
Do you want me to saute onion? Like chopped up onion? Diced up onion?
No, next time we go to Trader Joe's, we should get more vegetables.
Oh, no. We have the frozen. No, we have frozen. You want me to do those?
Yes.
Like your, whatever saute vegetables you got at Costco?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll work on that. Good. Just get the kids because we gotta.
All right. I love you. I'm sorry.
I love you. Sorry. I was one who held us up. It was my fault. I love you. You're everything to me. Okay. Go. I love you. I love you. Bye. Ciao. Ciao. Octavian, buddy. Are you just gonna do this for hours tonight?
Yes.
Okay. What do you want for dinner, Octavian?
I want for dinner some stuff.
You always say that. Okay. Will you actually eat the pizza?
Yes. And also some apple and some meatballs and also some corn.
Oh boy.
Okay.
How about just some of those things?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of food.
Okay. You brought your appetite. All right. I'll see you downstairs, buddy.